Well, hello there.
Oh,
I'm
hello.
Rosa Linda Román, and who are
I'm
you?
Ash Vyas.
I go by Rosa Linda, by the way, everyone. Hello, and welcome to Friends and Authors Live. This is our weekly live stream where we talk about everything about relating to being indie authors. And we are excited because we're live on Substack, we're live on YouTube and Facebook right now. So if you happen to be here joining us live, please send a note in the comment section. We actually get those live in the studio, not necessarily on Substack. That's a little bit of a different situation. But if you're on YouTube or Facebook, definitely send us a note and we can pop it up on screen at the very end of the show, which is a half an hour. We will pull up some of the questions that people have had. We've got some from a good friend of ours who gave us a question, so we'll have that toward the end. And yeah, so that's what we've got going on. How are you today, Ash?
Doing well, thank you. It's a little warmer. The winter isn't quite as bad as it was last week.
Oh, it's warmer because you're, tell people where you are.
Well, I'm in Germany, right? So it's probably, although I mean the states have had a cold spell as well, I think.
Yes, yes, we have. I'm looking, so I've got last week, sorry to interrupt. By the way, I'm in New Mexico, USA. And last week I talked about how it goes live on the Substack app and it's going live on my desktop, my laptop. So it doesn't actually show me, but hopefully this time we'll be able to see the comments live on Substack. Last time, I know for a fact someone commented on Substack, but we didn't get to see the comments. And it's a relatively new thing to have live streaming. They use something called RTMP, which I actually don't even know what that means, but it's so that I can go live. We have a studio through an app called StreamYard, and then we go live on Substack and all those other places. But Substack's pretty new, and so it's not quite integrated, and that means we can't necessarily see the comments here in the studio, but I can see it over here on my phone. So hopefully we'll get some live viewers. And while we're talking about Substack, Ash, should we just go there and talk about what the week's been like?
Why not?
Yeah, what happened?
Well, yeah, I don't know. I guess they'll get back to me, but the week of a launch, authors tend to be focused on marketing and stuff. And I got a message. I'm not experienced with Substack. I just got on a couple of weeks ago actually, but I was filling out my profile, which is basically the links to my Facebook page and my website and stuff, and links to the books I have on Amazon in their profile page. And then I got this message that said, "Well, you're in violation of our impersonation policy." So my account is hidden. So I don't quite know what that means. You can't actually talk to a human being about it.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
I'm pretty sure that I'm me. Now there might be other people in the world. Clearly, there are other people in the world with my initials and my last name, but hopefully they're not on my Amazon author page or my Amazon Facebook or my Facebook author page or my author
Right.
website. So hopefully this gets remedied. But perfect timing from Substack
Yeah,
this week.
yeah, and I think that it's important to point out. Okay, so with Substack, one of the things I like about it is they're pretty good about making sure that you are who you say you are. And so, in a way, it's kind of like you were talking about was he in the guy in the military that says good?
Yeah, he's a Navy SEAL named Jocko Willink. No matter what
Yeah,
happens, he says good, right?
yeah.
He tries.
So you said
Yeah,
you said good for this because it means that hopefully once they reconcile and realize you are who you say you are, it means it's harder for people to pretend to be you as an author, which I do appreciate.
yeah, no, that's true. I mean, I think they had some sort of a series of things like that where people were impersonating authors like bots and stuff. So, but if you're watching Substack, I am me. I guess hopefully this is remedied. sooner rather than
Yeah, it
later.
was such a bummer when I went to go set up the show and you add your co-host and all of that and it was like this account does not exist and I'm like I know it exists. I saw it there just a few days ago, but it has been somehow hidden from view. So hopefully in the next few weeks, hopefully in the next few days we'll get it remedied, but in the meanwhile we are able to record and make sure you get to share it with your community as well. So it's not just, this is not the Rosa Linda show. This is our friends and authors show. So I want to talk about the timing of that too, because it's not just that this live show has started, but today's a huge day for you.
Yeah, my 15th book, book four of my Texas Tales series is actually published this morning, right? So it was published on Amazon. So yeah, this is launch week, which is generally, you know, a fun time and focused because you have, you know, marketing things you're doing to try to get the launch off to a success. And you've been, you know, I mean, you've been writing the book, and this is pretty much the culmination of everything. In that, this is the week you show your art to the world, right? So
Right, right. I'm going to see if I can show your books on, if I can share the screen. So hang on one second. Let's see how this works. And we're going to go to your page on Amazon. This is you, A.K. Vyas, and I'm looking to see where they feature your new one. This is by popularity. And by the way, Eagle Feather, if you want to start reading Asha's books, I recommend you start with that one personally because I love it, and it's such a touching, wonderful story. But let's see if I can see publication date. And
there
is
you
this your new
go.
one? There we
Yeah,
go. This
that's
is brand
great. Yeah.
new. It just came out. I see that it's in Kindle Unlimited, so people can read it there, but they might want to actually be the first to buy it. And it's right here, Texas Tales, Dust and Dreams. So it literally went live just, how many hours ago?
Well, I mean, it's midnight Pacific time in the States, right? So that's 9 a.m. in Europe. Um, so yeah, this morning here.
It's amazing. So tell me, let's talk about book launches because that is something that I think a lot of people who will either be here live or watch the replay would love to hear about the process. I know for me, when I met you, I had done one book launch, but it was essentially I got the book on Amazon and then I did nothing with it. And it was my sailing memoir about living on the boat with my family. And so I think that's what a lot of people do. Just, you put it up on Amazon, which is amazing that you can do that. But there's a whole different process when you're looking at it as your business. And so after I met you and learned from you how to launch my books, now, it's a whole different I don't know, yeah, it's just been a totally different experience. So, like, what are the things that you're thinking about, or you're not just putting the book up, but what else do you have to do?
Yeah, there's a lot to that. There's a lot to unpack there. I mean, I can just tell you the
Yeah.
way I do it.
Okay.
I think the first thing is when you think about the genre that you want to write in, it should be the kind of stuff you're reading or consuming. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's an audiobook or a video or a paperback. But for example, there are wonderful people who read and write a romance. That's not me. I mean, I read historical fiction, I read thrillers, I like westerns, um, and those are the kind of genres that I should be writing, right? So I would say the first step, in if we're talking about my process at all, is just reading a lot because it's almost like you spend, you know, in my case, decades reading voraciously, and then at some point you have all this in you and you just want to let it out, and then maybe that's when you start writing your own books, right? Um, so that's probably the most important thing that I would share. Is the first step is write what you love or write what you read. The other thing is I kind of do things backwards. Like a lot of authors will write their books, get them proofread, don't do that. I'll do all of those things, and then get the cover made. I actually do it the opposite way. I actually get the cover made first. I have a wonderful lady who helps me do that. And once the cover is up, I use it as my screensaver or on my computer. So I'm staring at this promise that I have to deliver on, right? Because I already have the cover for the book. Um,
Nothing like putting a
and
little pressure on yourself,
uh,
right? That's good.
pressure makes diamonds, right? Isn't that what they say? So um, and the other thing I do is I learned from a very experienced author. What he does is the key is to always write every day as much as you can. And he's always working on two books at the same time. And the thought process is that he could be primarily working on one of the two 90% of the time. But if you have like some sort of creative block or a scene you can't figure out or something problematic that you want to do, that's easy. It's not an excuse not to write. You just switch to the other book for that day. And then, subconsciously, when you're out for a walk or taking a shower or something, your mind will figure out the solution. But the key to it is the hardest part: turn on the computer or the pad, look at that blank white screen, and just start producing on it, right? So, and the other thing, and this is more process wise, and then I'll get it more into the launch specifically, is there's, what do they call them, plotters and
Yes, and
pantsers.
plotters are the people who plot out a whole book. Pantsers are the people who fly by the seat of their pants, and then there's plantsers, which are in between. They
Yeah, I,
plot a
I guess
little, but not all the way.
I guess I'm kind of a plantser, right? Because on the one hand, like I think the whole story needs a structure and kind of an arc, and there are certain things that readers expect. But at the same time, I don't want it to be rigid. Like, so basically, I plot out the beginning of the book, and then I plot out the ending of the book, so I know it's how it's supposed to end. And then how I get from A to B can be more creative, right? Like I don't necessarily plan that out. Like I might write the first paragraph of each chapter to give me kind of a skeleton for what it should be, and then it takes me where it takes me, right? So at least that's the way I do it, and it seems to be working okay. And after that, I mean, people have different, So let's say, you know, most of my books are about 60,000 words, about 300 pages, which I think is a good length, not too long, not too short. And it takes me, if I'm focused, writing every day, about a month, a little over a month. And now I'm actually working a full-time job as well. So if I'd love to be able to, write full time, in which case I think I could do more. And I've been experimenting. Friends have finally pulled me over to experimenting with dictation, which I don't actually write very fast. But you
Yeah,
can
yeah.
dictate like, multiples faster, like thousands of words, an hour more than I can write. So starting to get into that.
Yes, if dictation is something that you can do, and it's like the tools exist, but it takes such a shift, especially as a writer. You're so used to typing everything. You go from here to your fingers and put it on the page. Speaking it out loud is a completely different mental shift. And if you can do it, it's so efficient and so great. You get many more words done. And especially now that the tools don't stand in your way, because it used to be you would dictate and every third word it would not understand you, or it would put a period where you didn't need one, and it just didn't make sense. Now it's, you can really say a lot of words very quickly, but you have to think the words. And like you and I were talking, I think yesterday, that you think faster than you write, is that right? And so, but when you're talking, I don't know, it's a different pace, and it's a different mental shift.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like I'm still new at it, but the productivity is so high. And also, there's kind of a physical benefit to it as well, because I mean, I've heard like forever that like, good ideas come to you when you take a walk. Like you hear about like scientists like Einstein solving physics equations and stuff in his head when he goes for his daily walk, his 40-minute walk. Well, a gentleman that I know, he's written hundreds of books, and he basically he doesn't sit in front of his desk all day writing. He dictates into a dictaphone, going for like, hour-long hikes or walks, whatever you know, which
Yeah.
which which is interesting to me. So I'm trying to to get outside, get moving, as opposed to sitting at my desk all day writing. Uh,
Yeah, I actually have a treadmill for that purpose because I don't dictate, but I type while I'm on the treadmill. I have a board that goes across the treadmill because I can't, I mean, after a while, you just feel like your legs are atrophying if you're not moving at some point.
yeah,
And
yeah.
so I have a treadmill and I just, I type and walk. The other time that great ideas come to you, by the way, are in the shower. And that's not really the best time to try to record
Yeah, I
anything.
probably don't want electronics in the shower. I remember that much from physics, or
Good, good. Yeah.
but yeah. So experimenting with that. We'll see if that works. But mainly, I'm just trying. I get up early. So when I have, it's the only time I have to myself before work and family obligations. So I get up early, try to get a couple hours writing in. Once you
So,
have the
so
rough
that's
draft,
step one. That's step one. You got to write the book
that's always
of
step
a
one.
book
Oh,
launch.
you have to produce. You have to produce the book, and it has to be
Right.
good. It doesn't have to be great. It doesn't. It just has to be good. And that's not that hard
Exactly.
if you do the work, your genre, and you work at your craft. And then so once you have the rough draft, from here people go all sorts of ways. Um, like for example, I'll tell you, like for westerns, I've written 8 westerns as of today.
Okay.
Actually 9. Uh, and but I've probably read 500 westerns over the course of my life. So
Yeah.
it's kind of
Right.
like tropes are kind of like a pizza. Like if you give someone the concept of a pizza, there are kind of certain things that they expect. They expect some sort of crust, generally cheese, although they have cheeseless pizzas, and some sort of sauce. And then the toppings, the thickness, the variations, like have at it. Like there's countless variations. But if you tell someone, I'm going to give you a pizza, and you don't deliver those basic essentials, they're not going to be left satisfied, right? So
Right.
at least
Right.
in one of the genres that I write in westerns, I know, for example, like they want action. Uh, they want this is kind of funny. Like you can write some pretty intense scenes, gunfights, etc. People don't balk at that. But if you get the caliber of a weapon wrong, like a pistol is a 45, not a 46.
Right.
This rifle holds 8 bullets and not 9 rounds. They'll call you out on that. And the other thing that's amazing too is, and I'm fine with this, is they actually don't like cussing, right? So if you think about it, like I'm pretty sure people cursed in the old West, right?
Oh
Life was
yeah.
rougher back then.
Especially with some of the scenes that you've written.
Yeah, right, right. So, but
Some of
anyway,
the things that are happening to the characters, I would maybe
yeah,
say a few
I mean,
expletives
if
myself.
I'm describing the Texas frontier and the clash of cultures between the settlers and the Comanches, like that's not Disney stuff, right? Like
Yeah.
it's some pretty intense stuff both ways. So anyway, you kind of, after a while, you kind of figure out what you have to deliver for the genre, what the readers expect in that genre. And for that reason, that leads me to the lack of the next step, which is some people go get a book professionally edited and stuff. I don't do any of that. I think, I have a pretty reasonable feel in my genres for what people expect and what to deliver. But it's very hard to proofread your own stuff. So instead of a full like content editorial or editing
Hmm.
service, I
Yeah.
have a wonderful friend who I pay to proofread my book, right? For
Yeah, I
grammar,
was going to
punctuation.
clarify because you said you don't have an editor, but you do have an editor to make sure get all the typos and all of that.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
the developmental editor where they're telling you what the story should be and changing the flow of your story. That you don't have that, and I don't have that either, by the way.
no,
Well,
and
I
and
mean, I kind of have my family. I force them to listen over and over and
yeah,
over until
exactly,
I'm happy with it.
exactly. And I have the same thing. I have a close group of family and friends who are beta readers. Some of them who are like my average, like for example, the demographics of the average reader for the westerns for me is an American male in a red state between the ages of 40 and 60. I have a lot
Right.
of friends that fit that description, right? So their feedback on the book, frankly, I value a lot more than some developmental editor in New York City, right?
Yeah.
So maybe that's short-sighted of me, but it's working so far. So
Yeah.
anyway, that takes so once I have the rough draft done, I send it off to this lady. She generally takes about 2 weeks to fix all the grammar, punctuation, and all the to spruce it up and make it you know, crisp. Uh, and then during that time, I send the rough draft to a core group of family and friends who are my beta readers, and you know they like my books, and I don't ask them to proofread because that's what the professional lady's doing. But I ask
Right.
them, hey, these are the people I say, hey, was there a part of the story that I have a questionnaire for them, like, did you like this? Did you not like that? Is there something you change? You know, is there something really good about it? Something you think I can add? And I don't always act on their comments, but they're pretty, you know, they're pretty on the spot. I mean, they've been very helpful, and so I do incorporate any suggestions they have, but they're usually not egregious. You know, they're usually
Yeah.
one or two things here, and it gets easier with
Yeah.
every book you write in a
Yeah, and
genre.
you gave me when I was first figuring out with my first book in the mystery thriller series, I didn't know like what am I supposed to be asking these people? Because what would happen if you're happy with the story, you feel pretty good about it, and then you have someone who doesn't read your genre or isn't really into the kind of story you're telling, and if they give you all this feedback, all of a sudden you're having doubts and worrying about the story in a way that doesn't help the reader that is your reader, so you have to trust your gut as well. And so you actually graciously gave me the list of questions to ask for the beta readers. And you also told me you would never, and I think this was your beta readers, that you never have anyone beta read that you wouldn't trust, that isn't very someone you know personally, someone that you
Yes,
trust. I think you
absolutely.
said to watch your child, but I don't know if that's the level of trust. But certainly someone that they're not they have integrity. Their people aren't just they're not in it for the wrong reasons. They're actually reading it, and they're going to give you constructive criticism, positive feedback, but not. Yeah, not just tear it apart for the sake of like, oh, I'm reviewing this, so I need to,
Yeah, you know,
that's not helpful.
I have about 10 beta readers. They're all friends or family, like lifelong friends or family, and
Yeah.
so far it's worked fine. Like I don't seem to need anything else for now. But yeah, no, that's very important. So basically, the book gets back from the proofreader in about 2 weeks, and I ask the beta readers if they could give me their feedback in a timely frame. Um, and then you set it up for pre-order on Amazon about a week or two out, and then the book's done, it's proofread, it's uploaded, it's all ready to go, and now it's marketing time. There are a myriad of different ways to market. People are successful doing all sorts of things. Uh, I basically tend to do two sorts of things, and these are things that I was taught by successful author friends. I tend to use Facebook ads. I generally run Facebook ads generally for marketing my books, but I especially, I run special ads a couple of weeks before a launch. And the other thing, there are newsletter stacks that you can use. Like, for example, there are services out there um, like a Bargain Booksy or Fussy Librarian, or Free Booksy, etc.,
Yeah.
which if you combine them with some of the features that Kindle Unlimited offers you if you're on their platform, you can give the earlier books in your series away for free or at a discount, and then for example, like the latest book, sell at full price. So you can entice the customers with a great deal where they, instead of buying all 5 books for full price, they can get them all for a fraction of that. And so, and
Right.
then you have the Kindle page reads as well. And a lot of folks have had success with that. At the same time,
Yeah,
a
I'm
very
one of
successful
them.
author I know. Yeah,
Yeah, you suggested I do that I had a launch in November, and it worked so well that you had book one, which was Death Wounds, book one of the series for me. That was free. Then the next two books were 99 cents, which I have to admit, I was very nervous about doing that because I had not discounted the books. I didn't really know if it was going to work. I did that. So I had the one first was free, second book was 99 cents, third book 99 cents, and the fourth book, which was the book that was coming out, was full price, which was 5.99. That from that launch day for the next 5 days, Death Wounds was at number one on Amazon bestseller list for Hispanic American literature and women's crime fiction. It lasted for 5 days on those lists, and the next two books on the paid list made it to 5 and 6 on Amazon bestseller list. So it did work for me. I know it doesn't work for every genre, but that strategy blew me away. I mean, thousands of people downloading my books compared to the trickle that I had had before that. Because the book came out, the book number 1 had come out in January. So all the way to November, and all of a sudden it hit the bestseller list. So that strategy worked for me, and you've used that many times in the past, correct?
Yeah, I've used that many times in the past, and even if I don't have a launch, I'll discount each series once a quarter. So basically 4 times a year, using that methodology. And the only catch to it is you need at least 3 books in a series, right? Otherwise, some of the
Agreed.
services they won't let you do it unless you have 3 books
Oh, I
for
see.
the
Okay, I
series,
didn't know that.
right? Yeah. So, you know, but that's one thing, and
Well,
that
and
gets your launch going.
the other catch to mention is you do get people who, want a free book. They don't necessarily read your genre, or, they're just getting the free book, and they're people who read really fast. So you might end up with reviews that aren't, they don't fit the book, and it's a little disheartening because you get, like, I had great reviews from real people, and then you get one, after I did that promo, I had a 2 and a 3 star review with nothing, no comment, no helpful information for the actual reader. It was just basically they didn't like the book, and you have no idea why. So that's a risk you take once you have more people reading your books or having access to your books. That's going to happen.
Yeah, and that's, I guess maybe that's one aspect of it too. I mean, it there's a certain aspect of having a thick skin, which you do, and most successful authors do, because you could say what you want, but you are pretty much emotionally invested in your book. Like, you've kind of created it out of your soul, or your heart and soul, and put part of you into it. And you know uh eh, different strokes for different folks. I mean, people are free not to like your book. I personally think if the wrong kind of readers, or not the right readers getting my books, it's my fault that I didn't market it to the right audience. But on the other end of the spectrum, the best advice I got about negative reviews or 1 star reviews, which no author wants to see, uh, is it's okay. It's one thing if they say, I'm giving you 1 out of 5 stars because I didn't like this or like that. Like I mentioned, like, for example, when I first started writing westerns, one lady was like, "This is an excellent story, but I can't tolerate the curse words." So this little blue-haired 82-year-old lady from Idaho, and I was like, well, you know what? She's got a point. So I went through, and so I didn't mind that at all.
Right,
What you
that's
don't like are
constructive criticism, right? Yeah.
exactly. What you don't want are the people who just blast it for no reason, or are just plain nasty. And the best advice I got was from a very experienced author. And what he told me to do was, like, on Amazon, if someone leaves you a 1 star review, like, maybe you earned it, and those are the breaks. But you're not allowed to respond to them, but you're allowed to click on their profile and see how they reviewed other books, right? And what I've figured out, at least my 2 cents on this, is people who give nasty 1 and 2 star reviews. If you go look at what their reviews on all products, they tend to be 1 and 2 stars. These are just not happy people, right? So maybe
Exactly.
I hope their life livens up or gets better, or whatever they're going through ends. But generally, like, the people who give 5 star reviews, they tend to give 4 and 5 star reviews because they're happy with life, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, and they're not
I'm not
buying
sure,
products that aren't things that they want
right?
anyway. So yeah, it's you're absolutely
But
right, and you just
it's
hope
not
those
scientific,
people
but
don't keep going after your books. You're like, please don't. You don't. If you didn't like the
yeah,
first one, you probably won't like the second one or the third.
you could have a log. You get an endless conversation with authors talking about, like, the crazy reviews that they've got. But most
Yeah.
people are fair. If you write a good book, and you present it to the right audience, most people are. And we haven't talked about the opposite side of the spectrum. Like, some people write the most beautiful, touching things, about that you just never forget, that make your day, right? So
Can
you
you
know.
give, okay, so before you answer this question, we are running out of time. I was hoping to do questions at the end. So we have a choice to either go a little long so we can get to the two questions we have in the chat, or we can carry them over to next week. What do you prefer?
Whatever you want. Whatever you want. I mean, I think we could
Yeah?
carry them over. I mean, I think we kind of
Okay.
answered the questions somewhat
Yeah,
so far.
yeah, we'll have more Q&A next week. And so if you're watching this on the replay, give us a little note, put it in the comments so that we can see what you would like for this show moving forward. We can talk about anything. As you can see, we can talk a lot. But I was just going to ask, and I think this is a good way to wrap up this show. Well, two questions. One, give us an example of a great review that just touched your heart, if you can. I don't know if you have anything off the top of your head. And then the second question is, how is today's launch going? And then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah. Well, there was a lady who said, you know, this is the kind of book I'd like to read to my grandchildren. Uh, about the eagle feather, right? Which that's touching because if you just kind of picture like, I mean that's kind of why you do it. Like obviously, it's a business. At some point you hope to make, at least I do, hope to make my livelihood from just this. But it's just kind of that the notion that like 1,000 years from now, when I'm just a distant memory, somebody could pick up one of my books and maybe get like a break from life or a laugh or some enjoyment out of it, right?
Yeah,
Like that kind of thing is really, I think about things like that, right?
that's
So
pretty profound. It really does make you think. And it makes you want to be the best writer you can be and put the
yeah, it
best books
does,
out
it
you
does.
can.
Exactly, absolutely, absolutely. This launch is going well. It's a western. Westerns kind of have their own niche, and this series, uh, I have two western series. I have the Ballad of Shannon Dumas, which is more of a classical heroic western. This one is a series of short stories, and a gentleman by the name of Elmer Kelton, who I think is the greatest American author, period, wrote
Wow.
westerns. And he said, it's tempting to make all your heroes, 6 feet tall and rugged and fearless, but it's better if your heroes are actually 5'6" and nervous, right? Because they're more human. And
Yeah.
this series, Texas Tales, it kind of focuses on two things. And I grew up on military bases in Texas as a kid. It's a guy who he's a good guy. He's kind of a wanderer, kind of a lonely, drifter, rodeo guy. Works on railroads. He's a cowboy. And he goes from town to town, but he always ends up getting messed up with people's problems. Like it's not all like gunfights and that kind of stuff. Sometimes he's someone gets bamboozled into being like the judge of a pie eating contest in a certain part of Texas or something like that. I mean,
Right.
there's all sorts of things, right? Like he gets recruited to help a church, replace their organ, and the only people they haven't tapped for money are a bunch of outlaws across the river in Mexico. So he goes over and tries to talk these banditos into ponying up for a new organ for the church, right? But the really fascinating part about it is, Texas is huge and has so many, people just think, oh, Texas, just desert, cactus, part of
No,
it is
it's
that
a
the Lotto
diverse
Estacado.
landscape. Yeah, yeah.
I mean, if you're in Nacogdoches on East Texas, like it's lush forests, or if you're down in Galveston, you're on an island, and they have these different cultures. So when I say Texas Tales, it's like not all the stories are like in Dallas and Houston and Austin. Like I go through and I research like little towns all across Texas, like go back and see what they were like, because they have different cultures and stories, and then I try to make it as realistic as I could to that little town. And it's been great because people from Texas who've actually written from those little towns have actually written to me and said, "You nailed our town. Have you ever been here?" And in a lot of cases I have, and in some cases no, it's just the wonders of the internet and research. But
Yeah,
whenever
yeah.
possible, I try to like write about places I've been. Um,
Yeah. Well, that's a future episode that we can talk about because like a lot of authors will go to the place and kind of immerse themselves in that culture.
mhm.
A field trip, and I'm thinking, you like let's go to exotic places. Let's find some cool places that we can write from. And on that note, we are going to wrap it up because we are a little long, which is fine. That's the nice thing about being an indie author and an indie person doing live streaming is we get to make those choices. But we are really glad you're here. For those of you watching on the replay, please let us know that you did watch by putting a little comment or a heart and like this show. We will continue this every Tuesday, and it's a lot of fun. So thanks for being here. Anything else you want to
Yeah,
say, Ash?
yeah, Substack people, if rulers of the universe, if you're watching, I'm actually me and a halfway decent human being. So please let me have my page back.
I can attest to the halfway decent human being and that he's real. Awesome. Thanks for being here, everyone. We'll see you next week.
All right, bye
Bye.
now.
I don't know why it won't end. There it goes.